The second type of cold calling is what we said is called outbound cold calling. Now, outbound cold calling is closer to what we traditionally think of as cold calling. Not quite the smiling and dialing, but it's any time that you're calling somebody, emailing somebody, or contacting somebody and it's unplanned or unscheduled. Now this could be a cold lead where you're just dialing somebody that you saw their business in the paper and they didn't have a website. It could be a referral where somebody told you to call a friend of theirs because they needed help with their website. It could be prospecting where you have a list of potential customers and you're calling them trying to get a scheduled meeting with them. It could be an existing customer that's not expecting your call. Or it could be a recycled lead, somebody that you contacted in the past and told you to call them sometime in the future and you're recontacting them. Now outbound cold calls are a little bit different than inbound. When you're reaching out to somebody and they're not expecting your phone call, usually they might not have an existing or stated need. They might not have a problem that they currently have where they've identified that they need a new website. So in general, you're going to have to approach outbound cold calls a little bit different, but you're still trying to get a scheduled interaction with somebody. You're not trying to sell somebody over the phone on the very first time you talk to them. You're trying to move them from this unplanned interaction into a scheduled interaction. So now, very different than your inbound cold calls. Your outbound cold calls do not have an existing or stated need. They have what we call a latent or sleeping need. Typically, if you're calling on a business and you think they might have a need for your services, even though they might not be looking for a new website or somebody to help them with their online business, they probably do. So you might have looked at their website online and noticed that they had a really bad website, or maybe you got an email marketing message from them and the message was all garbled. So even though they might not know they need your services, it's going to be your job to eventually show them how you could be of service to them. But typically, when you call somebody as an outbound cold call and they're not expecting your call and they're not really sure that they need your services, you're still going to go through the same process of moving them from an unplanned interaction where they have no idea who you are or what you're trying to accomplish to a scheduled meeting where you can actually start to deep dive into their business and tell them a little bit about the value that you provide. Now, I can do an entire module on outbound cold calling or prospecting, but typically what you want to do is you want to have a script. And this script is going to try to move you towards one thing and one thing only, getting a scheduled interaction with your prospect. So now let's review a little bit about what we learned in this first interaction called the cold call. First, any interaction, any unplanned or unscheduled interaction is a cold call. And second, there are two types of cold calls. There's an inbound, where somebody is contacting you, and there's an outbound cold call where you're contacting them. And third, your primary objective is to schedule a meeting. You want to move your cold call from an unplanned, unscheduled interruption to a planned and scheduled interaction.